Welcome back to the Let's Stay Together talk show. Now here is your host, Reverend Rick McCain and author Brenda McCain.
Hey, welcome back. Thanks for joining us on this second segment of Making Marriage Work. And we have a great guest tonight here. Okay, baby. We have a great guest here tonight, our resident counselor. I can't hear you, boo.
So you're here with Reverend Rick McCain and Brenda McCain.
My husband. Yeah. The man that call it as it is. Reverend McCain and author Brenda McCain.
Along with Tracy Brown Howard.
Oh, he got it right.
He sure did. He didn't say it the other way around. He got it right. We also have
I can see I got two things wrong. But go ahead.
See, don't play.
Oh, I got
Because you
that.
got
Go
three
ahead.
females on here tonight.
Hey, Leslie's my girl.
No, Leslie's going to be on our
Leslie's
side.
my girl. So.
Now, welcome back to Making Marriage Work. When we have tonight one of our resident counselors here that we love dearly. Her name is Miss Leslie Holley.
Hello.
She is, look at her, hello. She is our licensed clinical professional counselor, and she does a lot of couples counseling. So we're glad you are on the McCain train. We're going to get right into it. As you know, we are talking about heartaches and heartbreaks and the stuff that they do to people, why they take it so hard. What are some of the reasons why so many people take it so hard when they break up, especially women, with their significant other?
Yeah, I think we have expectations sometimes that we put on relationships, and when those expectations aren't met, sometimes it's really hard for us to process. Unfortunately, I think a lot of us, sometimes we get into a relationship and have these invisible expectations that our partner doesn't even meet, but we want to try to shape and shift and make this person meet these expectations. And also, you know, when we go through a breakup, you're going through 5 stages of grief. There's a grief cycle that you go through. So, you know, you're going to feel denial. You're going to go through a bargaining stage where you think, well, maybe we can be friends, or maybe we can make this work out, or maybe we can still be cordial in some way. You're also, of course, going to be sad and go through a lot of sadness. You're going to go through a lot of anger. And then you're going to eventually get to acceptance. And acceptance doesn't mean that you're happy, that you know, life is turned around, but that you can make peace with what's happened. And oftentimes people bounce between, the cycle isn't cyclical. It bounces around. A lot of times with clients I see, they go from being angry to sad to angry, angry to sad. And you can literally stay there, you know, for a long amount of time if you really don't decide that you need to cope and get through the breakup.
That's really cool of her to break the segments down, the cycles, because you never think about it. You go through the motions and everything, and it's like, okay, you up one day, down the next day, depressed, angry, mad, ready to kill him, he ready to kill her, ready to get back. Like you said, the bargaining thing. Never thought of it that way, how you be trying to negotiate. We could make it work.
Yes,
and then usually
yes.
with women are the ones that I could change, I could do this. It's like, girl, you better come to Betty Shabazz / Brenda McCain. You don't need to change. It's
Right.
okay, baby. You
Well,
look at
that's
it, you're
not
like,
that's not necessarily true, though. The person, you know, each person has to admit to themselves that there may be a level of change that they need in order to make the relationship
But my point was more women are
Right.
willing to
Yeah.
do that.
I
than
believe
men.
that. I think that the analogy is that more women will confess that they're willing to change. Unfortunately, a lot of times with the man, if the woman takes the initiative to change, and he won't do anything. You've got to demand that person makes the same change or the adaptation of change in order to make the relationship work. Because men, they'll cop out real quick. Hey, you change, but you've got to, as a woman, say, hey, you've got to make a change too in order to be in this relationship. Women get more emotionally involved, and I know Leslie will correct me over there. Women get more emotionally involved into it, and men don't show that emotion. They keep it in. It's an inner emotion that they don't show, and women will show it. So once you've showed me your cards, you know that song, if you play your cards right, everything is going to be all right. But if you don't, if you just open up and share, then that man will just sit there and say, okay, well, yeah, it's you.
Well, you know, that is typical, but you do see it the other way around. Man is very emotional and wants to communicate and the woman is shut down. It's either or.
Yeah,
you know,
kind of like with me and Brenda. She just she don't want to talk about help us. No, I'm joking. But
no, he ain't joking. Yeah. Help us, girl.
You know, but Stephanie, I'm Stephanie. What is Stephanie?
Stephanie on your mind.
Leslie.
Another woman on your mind.
I'm thinking about Stephanie and stuff like that. But
hey, Stephanie.
You're right. Hey, Stephanie.
Leslie, you was talking about those 5 stages. Mm-hmm. We all go through them, but a lot of times mentally we don't understand that. Why do we go through them, and how can we stop that stage?
Well, it's a natural process, and I think we have to lean into that process and accept that there is going to be pain, that there is going to be denial, that there is going to be a lot of anger. You know, I tell my couples that have dealt with infidelity, whoever is trying to heal from that, it's very common to see that person wanting to cuddle and the next minute wanting to cut that person's head off and the next minute crying in a corner. It's because it is a part of that grieving process. It's a human thing that we all go through, and we kind of need to lean into it and accept that this is a process, and find supports so we can help manage ourselves through that process. Somebody, you know, how are some ways that I can channel that anger? But also allotting some time to just feel those feelings.
Yeah. You know, I notice a lot of times, you know, we were talking about men and women, the difference between men and women with heartaches and heartbreaks. The women will express theirs, but men will not. Help the young lady right now in how she can, you know, understand the non-expressive man to a point where she's able to figure out which way is he thinking.
Well, I think what's really important to note here, and I know you may disagree, but I'm sure you'll agree. Women, we have to realize that we hold a lot of the cards here. Yes, we can set the expectations, and a lot of times we give away our power. And we need to be upfront about what our needs are and what our expectations are.
Be upfront, Rick.
Be upfront with what those needs and expectations are. Mm-hmm. Granted, yes, I understand communication can be hard, but you also need to make sure that you have a partner that's willing to work on his communication, whether it be through the church and doing ministry, through counseling, through spending quality time together, date nights, and really trying to work through ways of how to communicate. And I think for women, we have to understand that there's deal breakers and there's things that are quirky and that we can manage and we can deal with. Yeah. And the communication piece, I think if you see your partner trying, we need to encourage so that we can continue to see that grow. But to expect a man possibly to communicate the exact same way you do, when you need it, how you want it, is unrealistic.
It's impossible.
Yeah.
I want to talk about forgiveness in a breakup. Isn't that one of the hardest things to do? Example, Tracy, can I use you? Because I'm not being funny, but I ain't had nothing like that. It's like he broke her heart. He did this, but she have to forgive him in order for she could go on, right? Mm-hmm. And a lot of people say, I'll never forgive him, but you still holding on to bad memories, bad baggage. You're not growing. Because I think my question is, why is that the hardest thing for a person to do after they had a heartbreak?
Yeah, I think what's important to look at, I think, Reverend McCain, you said in the last segment, you see the glass not only half full, but what did you say?
I said full, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, half
completely full.
But completely full.
Yeah.
We have to hold ourselves accountable for what part we played in the relationship and what we learned out of the relationship. Mm-hmm. You know, people can only do what we allow them to do to us. And yes, there's things, you know, I've heard, well, I didn't know this was, you know, this person was like this. I didn't know that this was going to happen. Okay, granted, that makes sense. But were there any red flags? Are there any reoccurring themes and partners that keep showing up? So we need to look at some of these things. Or are there red flags that we never saw before, but next time around we'll say, oh, okay, I saw this before. Yes. Let me back away. So what can we learn from the experience? And that will help us get to the acceptance and get to the forgiveness.
And those red flags are, as I say, gold flags. You got the gold, the silver, and the bronze. The red flags out the box. Because once a person does that to you, it's like alerts, boom, 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 boom. Like she said, for the next person, you know every flag in the book that they don't even try to pull it. Is what I'm saying.
But you know, Brent, we say that, and it's real easy to say what you'll do in that situation. I mean, come on. I never thought I would be a person that would have a nervous breakdown. I would be begging you to stay with me. All of that stuff, I'd be like, psh, man, see you. But when you're in the moment, it is so
But for your
different.
next relationship.
Man, please. Okay.
See?
But you know, Tracy
like,
makes a lot of sense because there's a lot of things that people would never expect themselves to do,
Right.
but they get into that scenario, and it can be very, you know, devastating because you've got so much invested in this person. You love this
Yes.
person so much. You spend so much time with them, and then all of a sudden something to change like that. It you know, a person who's usually very self-confident and know that secure, this will never happen to me, is one of the people that it happens to. And unfortunately, because they denied that it would happen, it's harder for them to come back from it.
Right.
Right.
And not only that, they can't forgive themselves.
Yeah.
There you go.
You know, but we have to forgive ourselves, like you said, because things get hard. There's things that, mistakes that we make or situations we get into where we kind of lose ourselves and we're doing things that we never thought we would do.
Yeah.
But we have to forgive ourselves and say, you know, that particular incident happened for a reason. That was a certain season in my life. I learned something from it, and I can move on. But a lot of times when we have that shame and we hold on to
Yep.
it and we can't forgive ourselves, then we can't move on.
Yeah.
Yeah, she hit the nail on the head. It was so when you're ashamed, you're in denial, and you don't want to admit it happens, and it makes it feel like it's a reflection of who you are. Because remember, I told you, everybody always say, "Oh, Tracy's a good mother. Tracy's a good wife." So when your marriage falls apart, now you're not a good wife anymore.
Yeah.
So that's what you associate yourself with.
Yeah, and it's very traumatic when that happens because, you know, most people know me. I was married before, and thank God that
Yes,
you know,
you did that.
second marriage. You know, thank you, Jesus, Ishara. Thank you, Jesus, for the second marriage, a second chance. I can just preach on that right now in marriage. But the disappointment of what happens to you because you have that thought process that this will never happen to me. It's like that commercial. The guy said, "I'll never get married." And he gets married and
love
says,
that
"I'll
commercial.
never have kids," and they have kids. You know,
We'll never move to the suburbs.
those nevers
that
that you
commercial.
say, and then it happens to you, is very hard to rebound from.
Oh, yeah.
So, you know, Leslie, how do we go to that rebound stage? Because you've got some people out there that are listening. They're there now. They're depressed now. They're disappointed in love. They're heartbreak now. Help them go to the next step.
Definitely. So once we get out of the denial of this breakup and some of, you know, working through some of this shame and starting to accept our feelings and, you know, just how hard it is to let go of this person, we need to self-care, self-care, self-care. We need to make sure that we're out with our supportive friends. We need to make sure that, you know, we're in church, that we're praying, that we're meditating. We need to make sure that we're working out. We need to make sure that we're making a list, a bucket list, if you will, of things that I want to do in my life. And start checking those things off the list because life continues on, right?
Yeah.
And we have to live it. So self-care, I think, is a big piece of that. Getting a support network around you, finding ways that you can kind of exhale and enjoy yourself, and be good to yourself.
And when you do go through a heartbreak and heartache, the person that's left behind just always feel like, oh, woe is me. But I want to just share this, and I think I mentioned it to one of you guys either yesterday or today. When I was 19, that's when my heart got broken. And my sister, I mentioned it to her, my sister sent me a card, and I have it to this day. It was a beautiful card. She said, stop crying over these guys like that. They come and go. And you know, when you're 19, you get hurt. It's like, oh, my God, that's my world. But I'd never forget it, Chicago State. Seeing that guy with one of my friends, happy. I said, I'd never cry over a man again. And I'm telling you, I know it sounds cold because Rick, told me before. He said, when we first got married, you said, God, you're cold. You think like a man. You're a woman, but you act like I do. My mentality is like, well, and it was me self-guarding my heart. Because, I mean, me and this guy was so close. I just envisioned everything in our world. And I'm crying. And I'm looking at him with one of my friends, and I'm like, oh, no, that's not going to ever happen. I kid you not. I don't do that. Now, you the only one that might have me drop a few tears. Other than that,
let a brother help you out.
Y'all need y'all help.
God, no, let the brother help you. God knew.
Oh, here you go.
That there was going to be a time in your life. That a man of God was going to sweep you up and make you feel like a woman. Take care of you. Wrap his loving arms around you. Jesus knew that when you was down below in the valley, he had a mountaintop that was going to rise you above.
And his name is Ricardo, no middle name.
Hallelujah.
But I think, look, after all that preaching on Tuesday night, I think what got me was when that boy, and he's a boy to me, had a child with my friend and named her my name. Oh, wow. I was like, you know what? Ooh.
So, Stephanie, you can see that there's some people. Stephanie, God, why do I keep on saying Stephanie? I'm sorry. Leslie, you can see that there's somebody in here that needs some counseling. And so, for the person, that said nothing happens, you can still see that's still a little hurt there. Huh?
I can still. Just the fact you don't name your baby after me. I can
still see. He can name his baby anything he wants to. It's his baby. But God knew. Yeah, but
see, you dodged a bullet with that.
Yeah,
I did dodge a bullet. But before I got married, that person knocked at my mother's door and said, "You sure you want to do this? That's your loss."
But
he asked you, "If you sure you want to marry me?"
He didn't know you. He just wanted anybody.
Ain't that a trip? Let me find the brother.
See, why you upset?
It don't matter.
You know, Brent, I will say this, and you know my story of forgiveness. That's how, kind of I wound up on this show. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you got to go ahead and just forgive it and let it go. And it releases you from the angry, the bitterness, and it allows you to move on. But the one thing I do tell everybody is I do not regret my marriage. When my marriage was good, it was good. And I would never change that experience for the world.
And I admire that in you because you never really spoke negative. He did some negative things, but I know he hurt you and stuff, but you always said when it was good, it was good. It was like that low down. You know how women, we bash the man all the way from A to Z. Tracy don't do that.
Yeah, that's Tracy.
Oh, okay.
But, getting back to the other people and not your own personal little problems that you always have.
Right, my counselor gone.
Leslie.
I miss you,
and you know her name.
Leslie, we're going to... I don't know. You know how something gets stuck in your head like a song? That name is just stuck in my head right now. Okay. So, Leslie, for people who are going through that, we were talking about going through those stages. Again, we were talking about helping them out. But as you can see, sometimes some wounds will last for a while.
Oh, yeah.
And how do we get beyond that? Because if you see the person again, you get angry. Yeah. If you hear the person's name, you get angry. So it means in some cases we have really not been able to get beyond it. We're just not thinking about it. It's not something that's
true.
Our present situation, but it's still deep embedded in us.
Oh,
how do we remove that root that's just killing us inside that we don't even know exists?
Yeah, I mean, so it's a process. And I think as you grow, it gets a little easier and easier, but sometimes some things stay with us. Yeah. Some things kind of stay there and get a little comfortable, and that's okay. But I think when you talked about being hard because of everything that happened and kind of being guarded, I think it's with anything else. Life can throw all kinds of horrible things at us, and it's important to have a foundation, and that foundation is God. So that we can work through anything that happens, because anything could happen. I mean, we could walk out of here and the world could end, You just don't know. So you really want to go in with fresh eyes, have expectations, if there's some red flags, notice them. But I like how you said, Tracy, that, you wouldn't change it for anything. That, the experience, there was so much that you got out of it. Mm-hmm. And when it was good, it was good. And so if we can come up with some positive, what we call self-care statements that we can, feed ourselves with when those things happen, such as, when it was good, or I learned a lot out of this experience, or thank God that happened because it brought me to something else. So we can sit in that feeling and then kind of turn it around with some positive self-talk.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I said one day I'm going to write a book, or Brenda's going to write it for me, and I know it will be called "There Is No Happily Ever After, Just After." So all my life, and I went through like counselor after counselor trying to get them to agree with me because I wanted somebody to tell me he's wrong and you're right, because I kept believing that I was going to live happily ever after, and I'm not. I'm just living after. So I go back, I keep journals, and every once in a while, I don't know why, I must be really weird, I'll go back and look at those journals, and I'll be like, who is that woman? Who was she? Because that's not who I am anymore. But like you said, it took a long time to get there.
Yeah, you go through a metamorphosis of changing, and when relationships change.
You got a lot to do with that, Rick.
Thank you for that.
Oh, really?
I hope it's all good.
Yeah,
Yeah, I know. But, you go through that metamorphosis of change, and then you look back at that person, and you almost want to go back and speak to that person and help them and guide them along the way of saying, this is what you shouldn't do. These are the things you shouldn't say. These are the things that, you need to watch out for, because we want to go back and save that individual who has been lost or who has been devastated, who has been broken down. How do we go back and save them? And Leslie, I'll say this, and I'll let you answer this. I think one of the greatest things that Tracy was saying, that you look back at that, person, and then you examine yourself. And it's going to hurt sometimes, because there are sometimes I look back at my life and it hurts me, but I gain strength from it because I realize these are the things that catapult me to the person I am today. So I find it positive. Yes. I used to always tell my son, turn a negative into a positive. And so in your breakups, turn that negative into a positive. If that man or that woman left you, learn about what he did that you didn't like, you did like, and use that for your next relationship so you'll know what you're not looking for and what you are looking for.
Right.
Absolutely. And like you said, you have to look at that glass half full, not empty. What did I learn from this? How did this get me where I am today? I truly believe that things happen for a reason. We are taken through certain storms so that we can grow from it. And what a blessing when you can look back at that old person and say, wow, I am nothing like that person.
Yeah.
I've grown so.
Well, you know what? Let's talk about the marriage with the heartbreaks and the heartaches in it. And it could be a scenario of the infidelity, the adultery, and you're not ready to give up on your marriage, and you live in that heartbreak over and over again within that household. What do you say to the person? I'm going to say, what do you say to the man and the woman, not just the woman, when something like that happens?
Yeah, you have to get support. You cannot, the worst thing you can do is fill up with shame, don't tell anyone, kind of just deal with it within the four walls of your home. If therapy isn't something that, you're not interested in, marriage ministry at your church, you have to get involved. You have to get people to pray for you. You have to feel supported. You have to connect with others. And then that's going to help you chip away some of the resentment. But also through that process, you're getting education on what, each person is going to be going through. The person who was unfaithful, some of the things that they're going to have to deal with and swallow, and how long that process is going to take, and how you have to reintroduce trust. So that means I always tell my couples that have gone through infidelity, the person who was unfaithful, their partner should have access to all their information, everything, phone, social media. Not that person is always going to be checking it, but you have to build that trust.
Yeah.
If your partner is staying at work late, taking a picture at the desk, calling them, making sure that they're checking in, always. You have to start somewhere and build that trust, and that could take a year or two to be, dealing with the relationship in that manner, just keeping everything open and everything exposed. it's a humbling experience for the person who was unfaithful, but that is the only way that you can build up that trust.
So let me say this to you. That's something I've always done in my relationship, and I still do today. My wife has open access to everything of mine, phones, everything, credit cards, everything. When I go to work, I call her when I'm going there. When I'm coming home, if I'm going to be late, I build that relationship of trust from the beginning.
Yes.
And I think a lot of times, Brenda at first was like, why is he doing all this? But it was me building that relationship of trust. And people think that you're giving up a little bit, but you're strengthening your relationship by allowing that person to know that I can trust you when I don't see you, that I know that you're going to allow me to have access to everything when I'm with you. And I have always done that. She always has that. And I think every man that really loves his wife should get that. You see these things on TV, and I don't look at my phone. No, you can look at anything on my phone.
Well, some people, you'd be surprised. Some people are very private.
Yeah.
But I explain to people, you lost all that
when you said I
when the unfaithfulness happened. If that worked in your marriage before, great. But now things are different. If you want to work on this marriage and you want to build the trust, this is what you have to do.
Yeah.
Right. So pride comes in there, and you have to leave pride at the door.
So, Leslie, tell us where people can reach you at.
Well, I work at Urban Balance, so I am at 180 North Michigan Avenue. I'm actually going to be at another office as well downtown. I work in Ravenswood as well. I see couples, I see adolescents. You can reach me. Should I give them my number, my website?
Give them whatever you want to give them.
So you can reach me at 312-775-2316 to schedule an appointment. If you want a consultation, we offer free 20-minute consultations as well. So that's always nice.
We need to blow her phone up.
Yeah.
And you can check out my website, too. It's healing-circle.org. Yeah. So you can check that out as well. Or check me out at urbanbalance.com as well.
And you'll also be able to check out on the Let's Stay Together talk, because she's going to be one of our regulars.